Every woman on this ship died. Every single child on this ship died. Only the crew survived. This isn't a horror story. This actually happened in 1854, and almost nobody remembers it today. Her name was the SS Arctic, and back then, she was the largest, fastest, most luxurious ship in the world. She belonged to an American company called the Collins Line, built with US government backing to beat the British shipping giants at their own game. Her biggest rival was the Cunard Line, the most trusted name on the Atlantic. But the Arctic was faster, more comfortable, and more modern than anything Cunard had. People called her the Clipper of the Sea. Nothing on the Atlantic could catch her. But even the fastest ship in the world had already warned everyone that something was wrong. Less than a year before her final voyage, the Arctic ran aground on a sandbank near Liverpool. She survived. Then, just months later, she struck rocks off the coast of Ireland. She survived that too. Twice, in less than a year, this ship had nearly been lost. Nobody paid attention. On September 20th, 1854, she left Liverpool for New York, carrying around 400 people. Wealthy families, crew, and the ship owner's own wife, daughter, and young son were on board. Captain James Luce brought someone else with him too, his own son. 7 days in, everything was calm. Then came the fog. It rolled in thick over the Grand Banks near Newfoundland, so thick you couldn't see the front of the ship from the back of it. No foghorn was sounded, no warning signal, nothing. And that was the first mistake. Out of that fog came another ship, heading directly into her path. It was the Vesta, a French steamer, less than a tenth the size of the Arctic, carrying almost 200 people of her own. Neither crew saw the other in time. They collided head-on. Here's where it gets strange. The smaller ship looked like it had lost. Its bow was completely crushed. So Captain Luce did something that would cost hundreds of lives. He sent one of his own lifeboats over to rescue the Vesta, certain his own giant ship was untouched. He was wrong. Dead wrong. The Vesta had an iron hull with watertight compartments. Damaged or not, she wasn't going anywhere. The Arctic, on the other hand, was built entirely of wood, with no watertight bulkheads at all. 3 holes had been torn open below her waterline, and the ocean was pouring in with nothing to stop it. By the time Captain Luce figured out the truth, it was already too late to undo his mistake. He turned toward land, hoping to beach her before she went under. Pumps ran, engines strained, none of it mattered. And then came the part of this story that people still can't forgive. The Arctic only carried 6 lifeboats, barely enough for half the people on board. And when panic hit the deck, the crew didn't follow the rule of women and children first. They didn't follow any rule at all. They took the boats for themselves. Every woman on board died. Every child on board died, including the ship owner's own family, his wife, his daughter, his son, all gone. Captain Luce lost someone too. His own son had stayed close to him as the ship went down. When the Arctic finally disappeared beneath the waves, Luce was pulled under with her, and his son was swept from his arms in the water. He never saw him again. But one man did something different. An engineer named Stuart Holland stayed exactly where he was, firing the ship's signal gun again and again, hoping someone, somewhere, would hear it. He never left his post, and he went down with the ship still firing it. 4 hours after the collision, the SS Arctic was gone, swallowed whole by the Atlantic. Of the roughly 400 people who boarded that ship, only around 85 walked away. Almost all of them were crew. And here's something even stranger. 3 of the lifeboats that escaped the sinking ship were never seen again. No wreckage, no bodies, no answers. To this day, nobody knows exactly what happened to the people in those boats. Captain Luce himself survived only by chance. He was pulled back to the surface and clung to floating wreckage for 2 days before he was finally rescued. 3 days after the collision, the Vesta limped into the harbor at St. John's, Newfoundland, badly damaged but alive. And when the local newspaper saw her arrive, they printed a story based on a terrible assumption. They reported that the Arctic had survived too. For a brief moment, before anyone knew the truth, people believed everyone was safe. There were no telegraph lines linking Newfoundland to New York back then. It took 2 full weeks for anyone in America to even learn what had actually happened. And when they finally did, the public didn't just grieve, they were furious. Because the story wasn't just about a sinking ship. It was about a crew who saved themselves and left the women and children to die. People demanded an investigation. It never came. Nobody was ever charged. Nobody was ever punished. Not one person was held responsible for what happened on that ship. Newspapers pushed for change. More lifeboats, watertight compartments on every passenger ship, proper safety drills and mandatory fog signals so this could never happen again. A few small fixes were made, but the one thing that mattered most, making sure every single person on board had a seat in a lifeboat, was never fixed. The Collins line itself never recovered. Just 2 years later, in 1856, one of her sister ships vanished in the Atlantic without a trace, taking everyone on board down with her. By 1858, the company that once built the fastest ships in the world had collapsed completely. That exact failure, not enough lifeboats for everyone on board, would come back 58 years later, on a ship called the Titanic. The Arctic was the warning. The world had 58 years to listen. It didn't, and it paid for that mistake with a disaster the entire world still remembers today. Nobody remembers the Arctic. Everybody remembers the Titanic. But it was the same story, told twice. Think about that for a second. The ship that could have taught the world every single lesson it needed, fog signals, watertight hulls, enough lifeboats for every passenger, sank into silence. Newspapers moved on. Governments moved on. The Collins line's own name faded from memory within a generation. And the very mistakes that killed 400 people off the coast of Newfoundland were left completely unfixed, waiting patiently in the design of every great ocean liner built after her. For 58 years, ships crossed the Atlantic carrying thousands of passengers with the same flaw hidden below deck. Not enough room in the lifeboats for everyone on board. Nobody questioned it because nobody remembered why they should. Then, in April of 1912, the unsinkable ship met an iceberg instead of another vessel. But when the lifeboats were lowered, the world discovered, for the second time in less than 60 years, that there weren't enough of them. The SS Arctic didn't just sink. It tried to warn an entire industry, and the industry chose to forget.